Hi everybody, today we are going to be looking at interpreting climate graphs. So by the end of this video you will be able to, number one, identify the key features of a climate graph, and number two, use a climate graph to describe the climate of a place. So our key skills that we're looking at today are interpreting graphs. So what exactly are climate graphs? First, we need to think about what climate is, and climate is the average weather of a place. It is usually taken over 30 years, so it gives us a good idea about what the weather will be like on a certain day. Climate graphs show the average temperature and precipitation of a place. And precipitation, remember, is any form of water that falls from the sky. So rain, snow, sleet, hail, all forms of precipitation. The information that we have, so the temperature and the precipitation, are both plotted onto the same graph for a climate graph. We have a bar graph and we have a line graph together. And these provide us with an easy way to describe the climate of a place. We really need to remember though that climate graphs do not tell us what the weather will be like in a place on a specific day. Instead, they give us an idea of what weather we would expect. So, even if it says that very little rainfall falls in March on your climate graph, if you go there on holiday in March and rain does fall, that's okay, because the climate, remember, is an average of the weather of a place, not the specific weather of a place on a specific day. Okay, so here we have a climate graph, and this climate graph is for Dumfries, which is a town in southwest Scotland. And like we said, there are two graphs in one here. So the red line is showing us temperature. Temperature is always shown as a line graph on a climate graph. Okay, and if that climate graph is in colour, this line will usually be red. Precipitation, remember rain, snow, hail, sleet, is shown using a bar graph, and if this climate graph is in colour, those bars will be blue. Some people like to remember the difference between the two graphs that we've got, that rain usually falls straight down and the rain therefore fills the bars on these graphs. So that might be a way to help you remember that the bars show us precipitation. So there are two other key terms that we need to know about when we are thinking about describing climate graphs. First of all, we've got total annual precipitation, and then we've got temperature range. Total annual means how much in a whole year. So the total annual precipitation is how much precipitation falls during a whole year. And to work this out on a climate graph, we will add up each of the bars for precipitation. Handily, quite a few climate graphs will give you the total annual precipitation somewhere either above or below the graph. The temperature range is the difference between the highest and lowest temperature. So it tells us how much the temperatures change over a year. So to work out the temperature range, you take away the lowest temperature from the highest temperature. Okay, so we're going to do a quick understanding check right now. On the bottom of your screen, you will see that there are 6 quick questions. In a second, I would like you to pause this video and I would like you to answer those 6 questions. Before you do that though, there's a little quick tip that I need to give you. One common mistake that people make when they are reading off climate graphs is they look at the wrong y-axis. For example, they might be trying to find out the temperature and they would read off the precipitation axis, and maybe they'd give a temperature of 140, which obviously is quite outrageous. So remember to look very carefully. If you are working out the temperature, remember to look to the axis that has temperature labelled. If you are looking at precipitation, look at the axis which shows precipitation. And remember to give the units. Temperature, because we're in the UK, is usually shown with degrees Celsius, and precipitation is usually shown in millimetres, and you must give those units in your answer. So click pause, see if you can work out these answers. Okay, time to have a look at what the answers were then. So quick question 1 says, what is the temperature in February? Now you need to make sure that you find the red line for February and that you read off to the left hand side of the graph, and the temperature for February is 4.5 degrees Celsius. Maybe a little bit tricky, so if you said 5 degrees Celsius, you can give yourself a mark there. If you didn't put the units, do not give yourself a mark. Okay, precipitation in August. So this is question number 2. There were 80 millimeters of precipitation in August. Okay, so you should have read that off the right hand side of the graph. Again, if you didn't put millimeters, you do not get a mark. So the answer to number 2 was 80 millimeters. Okay, number 3 is the temperature in March, and in March the temperature was 11 degrees Celsius. Give yourself a tick. If you didn't put the units, no tick. Number 4 was, what was the wettest month and how wet was it? So this is 2 marks. Okay, if you said October, you get a tick. October was the wettest month. And then if you said that 135 millimeters of rain fell in October, or precipitation fell in October, give yourself another tick. But if you didn't put the units, no tick. Okay. Number 5, what is the hottest month and how hot it is? Well, this was tricky actually, because there are 2 months that were the hottest, July and August. Give yourselves 2 ticks there, being generous. And give yourself a 3rd tick if you said that that temperature was 16 degrees Celsius. Okay, last question. What was the temperature range? So we're remembering here that the temperature range is the difference between the hottest and the coldest temperature. So we take away the coldest temperature from the hottest temperature, and you should have got then 16 minus 4, which gives us an answer of 12 degrees Celsius. If you've been doing this work on a computer, you might have been quite annoyed because you don't know how to insert the degrees symbol. So I'm going to show you how. First of all, go to the right hand side of your keyboard and find the key that says NMLK. This is a numlock key. You need to make sure that that is turned on, and if you press it, you'll see a little light comes on at the top of your keyboard, or it goes off. You need to make sure that that light is on. Then you need to hold down the Alt button, which is to the left of your spacebar, and then you're going to go back to your number keypad and you're going to press 2, then 4, then 8. Let go of the Alt button and your degree symbol will appear. Alrighty, so we're going to think now about how we write a climate description. And there are 3 kind of approaches, 3 steps that you need to take to write a really good description. So the first thing is you're going to look at the temperature. You're going to describe the temperature over the year by discussing the highest and lowest temperatures, and remember you need to say what month that was and how high or low they were, and you're going to give the temperature range. You're then going to do a similar thing for precipitation, and you're going to say what precipitation is like over the year by discussing the wettest and driest parts of the year, again saying what months and how wet, and you're going to give the total annual precipitation if you can find it. Then you're going to just give a little summary. Overall, what is the climate like over the year? Okay, here is my model answer. So I started off with temperature. In Dumfries, the temperature range is around 12 degrees Celsius. I get a mark there because I've quoted a figure. The highest temperatures occur in summer during June and July when it is an average of 16 degrees Celsius. I get a mark because I've given the hottest months and I've given the temperature. The lowest temperatures occur in December when the average temperature is 4 degrees Celsius. Again, I said the month and I said the temperature. Now I do the same with precipitation. Around 1,120 millimeters of precipitation falls a year in Dumfries. So that's my total annual precipitation. It is wetter during autumn and winter, with the wettest month being October when 135 millimeters falls. Get a mark because I've said the month and how much precipitation falls. The spring and summer months are drier. April is the driest month as only 60 millimeters of precipitation falls. Again, I get a mark there. And a generous marker might have also given you a mark for saying the spring and summer months are drier. Okay. Lastly, in conclusion, the climate of Dumfries is colder and wetter in the autumn and winter and is warmer and drier in the spring and summer. So here I've given quite a broad description of the climate over the year. I've not quoted any figures, but because I've said when it's colder and wetter and then warmer and drier, I get the mark. Okay, so that's us at the end of our little video about climate graphs. So now you should be able to identify the key features of a climate graph: temperature, precipitation, temperature range, total annual precipitation, and you can use the climate graph to describe a climate of a place by using our 3 steps to write a detailed description of a climate over a year. Thanks.